Welcome to my AMA. When I record, as some of you know, I don't use the Zoom recording, so your faces and are not going to be on there. I'm just recording what I have on my camera here. So it is recording, and I will have this, usually I have it up on the following day for you to watch and rewatch some of the questions. I have about 40 people that are signed up for this, so probably about 25 or 30 people. How many do we have here? 22. So yeah, we're getting right there. That's typically what happens, and then I have a lot of people that watch it later on. So let's get started here. We'll get started on time here. That's what I'm trying to do. Welcome to my AMA, my Ask Me Anything. And basically with these Ask Me Anythings, I take questions in from people and then I go through them. I usually usually have about 7 or 8 questions I can cover in about an hour. And then that also leaves a little bit of room for talk at the end and questions in between. So I found out that seems to be the magic number. So I have 7 or 8 questions for this particular AMA. And I'm going to skip over about me because everyone knows who I am, but I am going to pin this. This particular class is, or pin to first spotlight, there we go. This particular class, I kept it pretty much closed. I mean, anybody could have registered, but I'm kind of keeping these for my members, so making a nice little community. My classes, what I do is I open those up to everyone. Like next week, I'm going to be having a class on numbers. So that's open to everyone, and it kind of gives people a little bit of a feel of what I do. But this is going to be our little community here tonight, and so I'm going to skip over about me because most of you know who I am. So, the first question. This came from John, and he asked, do you have any iPad trackpad tricks? And there's a couple of them that there are out there, but I'm going to mute everyone. And as some of you know, the way I work is I kind of do it freeform. I don't have a moderator or anything like that. So if you do have a question, you can unmute yourself, wait for a little pause, and then ask your question. You can raise your hand, but it's like I say, I don't have a moderator, so I'll try to see you, but usually just unmute yourself works pretty good. So I'm going to mute everyone. Feel free to unmute if you have a question. Where did it go? Mute. Let's see here. Participants, chat. I need to get the chat window open. Move that here. And participants.
Excuse me.
Yes.
I have a question, but I don't know how to send it to you.
You can use the chat. I have my chat.
I have the chat open, yes.
And just type in there. It says type message here, and you should be able to type a question in there.
I have done that, and I just hit return and send it.
Yep. I don't see. There it is. Well, I'm having trouble putting the contact.
I'll mute myself again. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, we'll get to that one towards the end. We'll get through the questions that I have ahead of time, and then we'll get to that one at the end. If I don't get to it, remind me. So, all right. So the John asked, do you have any iPad trackpad tricks? And really with the iPad, there's not, it's very similar to the Mac. I mean, Mac has a few more things that you can do with it. But the iPad is pretty good. One trick, well, let's go over to my iPad here. Probably the biggest thing that you may see is I have this cursor that follows me around with a trackpad. I'm using we'll go to my overhead camera. I'm using a smart keyboard here, and you're going to see that cursor just kind of follows me around. So I'll show you how I do that, and a couple other things in there, but there's really not a whole lot with the iPad and the trackpad. So the first thing that you want to do is go over to the Settings app, and from here, what you'll want to do if you have a trackpad, what you're going to see under General here is Trackpad. And when you go under trackpad, what I'm able to do is set the tracking speed. So this is how fast it moves. If I move it over here to the slow, it's going to, I'm going to have to keep swiping to get, if you go over to my overhead, you're going to see that I'm swiping and it's really not moving a lot. So it's very slow. And then if I go to the rabbit, you can see I barely, this one annoys me when I see a student come, I'll try to use a trackpad on their MacBook Air and it's just like, whoa, kind of thing. So I usually put that right in the middle there somewhere. This one's pretty comfortable for me. Natural scrolling. This one is actually kind of interesting. I have a friend who uses the, I guess you would call it unnatural scrolling. I'm not exactly sure what you want to call it. But basically what natural scrolling does is, probably about 4 or 5 years ago, Apple switched how scrolling works with a trackpad. If you're on a Mac, maybe even longer than that, it might have been longer, several years ago, if you were on a Mac, the way that it used to work was when I swipe up, what's happening is the scroll bar moves up. So you're going to see when I go back to my overhead here, I'm swiping down and the scroll bar is moving down if you look at the scroll bar, but the content is moving up. This is how it used to work. And the idea was I'm swiping down, I'm pulling that scroll bar down. That's typically, or that's how it was always set up. That's the way it was set up from when they first added the trackpad. I swipe up. Basically what I'm doing is I'm moving that scroll bar up and the content is going down. But when they came, when they came out with the iPhone, it didn't necessarily work that way. When you swipe down on the iPhone, you're pulling that content down. So it had an unnatural feel when you go back over to your Mac. I swipe down on the iPhone, but here when I swipe down, it actually is moving the content up. So what Apple had to do is they had to change that behavior. And the way that they did that is they added this natural scrolling. I still have friends that that have this off. They are just so used to that. But basically, when you turn this on, now what's going to happen is when I swipe down, so I'm swiping down, the content is moving down, just like I'm on the iPhone, or just like I'm doing this here. I swipe up, the content moves up. I have my trackpad, I swipe up, the content moves up. So that is natural scrolling. And I have tried to convince my friends, one friend in particular, Lee, to turn that off, and I bug him every time, but he refuses to do it. But that is what natural scrolling does. If you like that old behavior, like my friend Lee, you can go and turn that off. It's just going to be backwards from when you're on the iPhone. But muscle memory can get pretty strong, and he's just used to working with it that way. So that's the way he has it set. Another thing you can do, and I love this, this is something that ironically I find is a little bit of a sticky point with some of my genius friends, my former Apple genius. They hate this tap to click even to this day. And basically with the tap to click, what it does is if I want to click on something, let's say I wanted to click on wallpaper here, I don't have to physically push down on the trackpad. All I have to do is just tap on it real light, and we can see it went. I'm not physically clicking on it. You're not going to hear a click. All I'm doing is just tapping on it. I love that because it's silent. You don't hear those clicks and all that. And once you get used to it, it makes it really easy to click on anything. But like I said earlier, I have my some of my Apple friends who absolutely refuse to do it, and I dare say it's still from the old days of that's a Windows trick. Apple didn't have that years ago, and when they introduced it, I went right for it. I think I actually turned it on when I was at the Apple Store 10 years ago. And, still to this day, there's some of them that absolutely refuse to use it. And it's just like, oh, man, you need to embrace that. So that's what tap to click is. And if you can use it, if I would say try it for a while and just see if it works, because I think it's brilliant. It's just great because you just don't have to click. The other thing is with the iPad's trackpad, whoops, wrong one. Did I mute myself? Yeah. There we go. You can hear me again, right? Okay. I muted myself there. I accidentally hit the wrong button. So basically, with this trackpad here, this little guy here, this is not like the trackpad of a MacBook Air, MacBook Pro, or whatever. I believe this is actually a pivot where it has a hinge up here. And I know the Logitech trackpad also, I do have a Logitech case for my other iPad, and that is a hinge piece. So the idea with that is if it's a hinge, so let's say the hinge is up top here, when you press down here, works great. But if your finger's up towards where that hinge is, you have to push on a little bit harder to make it click, but not with tap to click. You don't have to worry about that with tap to click. It just, you just tap anywhere on that trackpad and it'll click. So depending on which trackpad you have, Apple's trackpads are generally really, really good and you can click on them anywhere. But some of the other ones, they use the older hinge type style thing. And depending on where you click it, you might have to push a little bit harder. Well, with tap to click, you won't have to worry about that. And then I also do use the secondary click. So with a mouse, we all know that there's two buttons here. Back to the Windows days, right click and left click. And with a trackpad, you have basically the same thing. And what you can do is if you tap with two fingers on it, it's the secondary click. So when I go to my trackpad here, and let's open up Safari here, and I'm going to select something here. Oh, there we go. So basically, there's a little menu up here, if you can see that. If I just tap with two fingers, there is that little menu that I can. So I like to use that as well. And with that, you don't have to actually physically click it. You can just tap it with two fingers, just a light tap, and then you get your secondary menu there. So those are the settings that I have, and I would recommend people try it. Try the tap to click, try the two finger. I think they really do make things a lot easier. And, when you're sitting there on the couch, I'm not disturbing my wife. She's not hearing this click. She has much better hearing than I do. So she hears the clicks and things like that, and she won't do that when I just use the two-finger tap because it's much, much softer. But there's an art to it, as with anything, and you just have to use it for a little while, and you're going to have some what I would call false taps. You accidentally tap it when you didn't mean to, but you get used to it, and then you'll figure it does, I think, make things a lot easier. What else do we have with the pointer? This is what they call it on the iPad, the pointer. Well, when you go to accessibility, what we have here is pointer control. This is where I'm setting how large that little cursor is there. So basically when I tap on this, what I can do is I can change the appearance of this pointer. So I have the pointer size here set really large so everyone can see it. But you can actually go and make this, I think this is a default setting and it's nice and small, But like I say, I put it a little bit large. On my personal iPad, it is not that large. But for this, just so I can show people, where things are, I probably could make it a little bit smaller so it doesn't cover up everything. But you can actually kind of follow along where I'm going pretty easy there. You can increase the contrast. So now it's a little bit darker. And now it's a little bit lighter. If you have a hard time seeing the pointer, increase the contrast. You can also automatically hide the pointer. I have this turned off so that people can kind of see it. But basically, if I turn this on, that pointer will disappear eventually. There it goes. It disappeared. So it kind of clears things up. And maybe I should use this for the lessons or whatever, because now it's kind of out of the way. But now let's say I wanted to go over to wallpaper. When I move my trackpad, it goes over to wallpaper. I can highlight wallpaper and then it'll disappear. So it's not always there. I think that is on by default. You can also change the color. Right now I have that, the outside of it, if I make this larger, the outside of it is blue. but you can go and change the color. I think by default it might be none. It's just a shadow in there, but I just wanted to add a little bit of highlight for everyone. Make sure that they can see it. You have pointer animations. Pointer animations, what this will do when this is turned on is when you move your cursor, and this is an iPad exclusive, when you move your cursor or the pointer over on top of something, what it will do is it will kind of meld into it. It animates into whatever it is hovering on top of. So let's say I go up to accessibility here. You're going to see all it does is just highlighted. It's not really doing anything. But when I go to pointer animations, you can see that it is animating into the whole button. So it doesn't do it on everything. You're going to see over here on the left, it's not doing anything. But if I were to go over top one of these icons, you can see that the cursor disappears and it animates the icon larger. So that's what and that is on by default. I turned that off just because what I want to do is I'm hovering over this icon. I don't want to have anything change or that as I'm giving a demonstration. But that is on by default, and I believe I have it on my personal device by default. I do have it on. Tap to drag. This allows you to continue. This is a little tricky. That's why I do have it turned off. But when you are dragging something, you can still control it even after you lift your finger. So, but it's a little tricky, something that I don't use, and so I just don't have it on. Trackpad Inertia, what this will do is it will, if I move the trackpad, let's see here, how can I explain this? If I'm moving, you can see how it's stopping suddenly. And when I turn this on, you can see it slows down a little bit. I don't have my finger on there, but it's not stopping, so it kind of adds a little more natural feel to it. If you don't like that, you can just turn that off, but I kind of like that natural feel. And then, of course, you have your scrolling speed, which is different from the tracking speed. So this is how fast something will scroll. But those are, generally speaking, those are the settings and the tricks for the iPad. Probably my favorite thing is the tap to click. I'm a huge fan of tap to click. And the two finger, basically, I never really physically click. As far as I'm concerned, this trackpad is not even a physical button, which it is on the iPad, the smart keyboard. It is a physical button. On the Mac, these guys here are not physical buttons. They have a haptic engine in there, and it makes it feel like it's a button, but it's really not. The iPad, it is a button, but I don't use it. As far as I'm concerned, there's no physical springs or anything in there. So those are my two favorite things. And for training, I do really like the cursor, kind of thing. And now that I have it turned off, the reason why you may want to leave it on is that's going to disappear and you're not sure where that cursor is. Well, now all you have to do is just move it and it comes back. I use something similar on the iPad. This is a third-party app, Cursor Pro. I actually did create a lesson on it because it is one of my favorite apps. And I do not have it in Ventura here. So let's see here. Let's try this. I think I do have it. Cursor. Nope. Because I'm in Ventura. But basically, I have the same kind of thing set up on my Monterey for my Mac. And then you can kind of follow along the cursor. But it's a third-party app. On the iPad, it's built in. So what I'm going to do, let me see what the next question is here. Okay. I'm going to restart my MacBook Air into Monterey, so then I'm in a more comfortable environment. I don't have everything all set up for Ventura. So give me a minute here. Continue holding. You might actually be able to see what I'm doing here. Nope, it's just the rainbow screen. My next question is from Betty. And this is when you populate your name and email address on a website, where is that information coming from? Well, basically where that is coming from is the Contacts app. And there's a setting in the Contacts app where you can tell the Contacts app what your card is. So let's go over to the iPad as my Mac is restarting. We're going to look at this on the iPad. It works the same way in the iPhone. I'll just show you where it is on the iPad. So when I'm looking at my iPad here, basically what I need to do is go over to the Settings app. And then from here, what we do is we find our contacts, and then you're going to see My Info. When I click on My Info, what I'm able to do is select from one of my contacts who I am. This is My Info. And this is where that information is pulled from that card, My Info card. So if I wanted to change my email address, what I would do is I would go to my contact and go and change the email address in my particular contact. And then from that point on, the iPad would pull that information or pull the new information from my card because I have that designated as my card. Now on the Mac, it's a little bit different on the Mac. What we need to do is go over to, so now I'm back in Monterey, things are still kind of rebooting here. But basically, what we need to do is go to the contacts here. And when I go to my contacts, I would select my card here. So here it is, Dan Wasink. And you're going to see it has this little icon here. Let's get my Cursor Pro working here. Cursor Pro. There we go. There's that little guy. So you're going to see that we have this little silhouette here. This is telling the Mac that this is my card. So any information in here is where it gets its information from. In order to designate, let's just say that Beth now owns this computer. So I need to make it her card. I need to assign her contact as my card. The way that you do that is you select the name here, go up to card, and you say, make this my card. And once you make that, if I were to do that, all of a sudden the information that it would pull is from Beth's card and not from my card. You can also access this information if you go to Safari, and we go to Safari's preferences. You're going to see under autofill here, using information from my contacts. That's the one that we want. We're not going to talk about the usernames, passwords, credit cards, or other forms. So this is checked, which means that it's going to autofill web forms using my contacts. So I can click on edit here, and you're going to see it pulled up right to my name, and I can go and make the change. So Betty, what you would do is you would go and change the name here, go and change the email address or whatever, and then that's where it would get its information from, as long as you have Betty as your card. So that's how that, yeah.
And so the email address that you want to use should be the first
one. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And the way, right now what you have to do, somebody pointed out, last week I talked about an app where you can reorder that. It's a 99-cent app. I'll probably have a lesson on it. I'm still kind of playing around with it. Somebody said it wasn't working real well in Ventura, so I want to confirm everything up. But with that reorder app, what you're able to do is change the order of this. But if you don't have that, what you have to do is you have to do this manually. So let's say I wanted to have, Dan at No Boom Productions. That's really not, I don't even think that address is alive anymore. What I would have to do is delete this and then put in there Dan at, I can't physically move these, unfortunately. So I would go like this, and I would take Dan's, that's the one I want as my prominent. And yeah, see, it's not easy. I guess I'll take that one. Basically, yeah, you have to move a lot of stuff around. So that reorder it is a little bit of a godsend. There it is. It is in a Mac. It is not a Mac app, but being that I have an M1 here, I'm able to download it to my Mac. So if you have an M1, there's a huge bonus. You can load most of your iOS apps on it. So I can go in here, reorder it. And then I would go to me here, and we're going to try this out. Somebody said it wasn't working, but I'm not using Ventura. And now, if I go back into my contacts, let's see if this worked. Yeah, there it is on top. So that's a little app called Reorder It. You can use it on your iPad, iPhone. If you have an M1, you can also download it. And the way that you would do that, it's a little tricky to download apps. I shouldn't say tricky. It's not tricky at all, but there is a little, so I go to the App Store here, a little thing you have to do. So I'm looking for Reorder It, right? That's the name of the Reorder It.
What is an M1?
M1 is Apple's chip, like you have Intel. In the old days, you had Motorola chips. M1 is Apple. So Apple is moving away from the Intel chip. I think they only have a few of their Macs left that use the Intel chip, and they're going with their own proprietary chip, using the M1. And the iPhone and the iPad have been using M1 type chips for years, and it's all ARM based. So now applications that were developed for the iPad and iPhone, being that they're ARM based, and now the Mac is ARM based, they can run a lot of these apps. So you're going to see I searched for Reorder It here, but it's not anywhere in here. So how do I download it? I know it's an iOS app. Well, if you look here, you're going to see by default it goes to the Mac apps because I am on a Mac. So what I have to do is I have to go to iPhone here, and now when I search for it, there it is, Reorder It, because I'm looking at the iPad apps, iOS apps, I should say. Not all apps will be in here. So if I wanted to load the Tesla app, you're going to see that I cannot get the Tesla app, the official Tesla app, on my Mac. It is up to the developer. Most developers, when they submit an app, what they do is they do allow it to open up on a Mac. I'd say most, but in some cases you may not be able to download it to your Mac, and that's just because the developer, for some odd reason, doesn't want it to do that. So, not all apps are available, but most are, and that's all you have to do. So that's how you can reorder it, Betty. With that, it's a 99-cent app, and it works pretty good, as you can see. So.
Okay, thank you, Dan.
Mm-hmm. All right, what else do we have here? My green screen doesn't seem to work. This is from Deborah. She has a studio display, and she's just having problems with it working and not working, that kind of thing. And I did a little bit of. I think what may be happening here is when you do a green screen. So I have a green screen here. This is not my background. When you do a green screen, every green is a little bit different, and sometimes what you need to do is you need to tell the software, in this case it would be Zoom, what color green you have. So you kind of have to fine tune it a little bit. And with me, I have specific software, but I'll show you here what I can do is the fade level. If I change it to blue, now, my glasses, wow. So it's looking for a blue screen. Okay, that's pretty simple. There's the green screen. But also I can adjust the fade level. And what she's getting is a little bit of that green tinge. You see it on my shirt there. So there's a little bit of tweaking that you have to do. And Zoom does allow you to do a little bit of that tweaking. Also, what you can do is you can adjust your lighting. There's a lot of videos on green screen, but I'll go with essentially what you want to do is make sure that there isn't light behind you. That will throw things off. I have lights in front of me that bounce off. But if you can't do that, that's not anything big. Overhead light will be fine. But the other thing, let's go over to my Mac. And we're going to open up Zoom here. And I'll show you. I'm not going to join this meeting, so this is just running on its own. I'm not even going to join a meeting, but what I can do is I can get to the background here. So I'm in the preferences. I'll show you how I got here. So I'm in Zoom. We go up to our preferences, and couple things we need to do. The video. First of all, I need to set the camera. So there's the camera. You can see a little bit of the green screen there. Let's move that up there a little bit. So it doesn't. This isn't where the settings are. What you need to do, I would turn adjust for low light off. Make sure that is off. That can screw up things from what I've read. But the big one here, the background effects. What you need to do is, let's go and add. So first of all, she clicks on it. I have a green screen, and then she gets some strange bubbles, and it looks like blobs or whatever. And I was able to verify that that's what happens. Let me go grab an image here. For those of you who don't know about Unsplash, Unsplash is awesome. I think it's owned by Squarespace. But basically, these are free high-resolution images that you can use. I use these a lot. So I'm just going to go with, I want to have a beach behind me. So you don't have to worry about copyright. Basically, all you have to do is just click on download, and you can use these. So it's Unsplash. And of course, what they want you to do is give the author a little bit of credit, or maybe you want to hire the author, that kind of thing. But they have thousands of images here. It's really pretty good. So I've just downloaded that. A little side note there if you're looking for images. Now what I need to do is add that. So I'm going to add the image here. And that went into my downloads here. Let's see here. Let's go. Documents. Where's my computer? Not Ventura. Not the desktop. All right, where's my downloads? There we go. Applications, users, Johnny, downloads. And there it is. Okay. And I'll give you another little tip here as I'm doing this. I wanted to verify that this was the image. I have my little preview here, but if you hit the space bar, that's called Quick Look. You can actually, all I'm doing is just tapping on the space bar here. You'll see, tap, it opens it up, tap, closes it. It's a way that you can get a quick look into a document. But anyway, I'm going to open it here. And now when I go back over to my backgrounds here, there's a little bit of that blob, kind of thing. And I have a green screen here, and I have checked here green screen. So what is it doing? Essentially what I need to do is I need to go over to this little guy here. We're going to see if this works. And I click where that green is. Let's see, let's try it here. There it is. So I have to tell Zoom where my green is. And once I did that, you can see that that green screen is there. So basically what I'm doing is I'm telling, let's say I wanted to, this is my wall in my office here. If I click on that, oops, let's go click on it. You can see that that now is my, as far as Zoom is concerned, that is my green screen, and the tone of my skin is similar to that, and I have an orange shirt, which is pretty similar to that. So it's like, oh, that must be the green screen. So essentially, go over to this little guy here. You're going to get, click on it. I'm going to have to click on it. I think you get, there it is. You get a little plus there, crosshairs. And then when I click on the green, there it is. So now I have my green screen.
You're amazing. Thank you. I will try that.
Okay.
That is fabulous.
Yep.
Thank you.
No problem. All right. Let's go back over here. And this is from Kevin. And this is pertaining to the iPad. Kevin has an iPad. And he asked, what are the options that are available when you select the share icon? And this can be a little tricky. I had to look this up to see if there's any kind of rhyme or reason for the share icon. And there is to a certain degree, but it can get confusing, which is where Kevin is coming from. So let's first of all see what the share icon is, and then see how it's organized, and then how it kind of all works. And for everyone, before we go over to my iPad, it is going to be different for everyone because it is contextual based. So depending on what apps you have, you may have different options for it. So I'm in my iPad here, and let's go over to a web page. We'll just go over to Apple. We don't need to look at another PDF there. All right, so I'm looking at Apple here, and what I want to do is I want to share this. Well, what does that mean, share? Well, basically what you're doing, the way that I put this in my head is you are sharing it with another application, you're sharing it with your printer, you're sharing it with someone social, maybe in the Messages app. Share is a pretty broad statement when it comes to the share icon. It covers a lot, which is why it can get confusing. So the share icon here is up in the upper right hand corner in Safari, but the share icon is available in pretty much everything. I'm in Safari here. Before we take a look at it, if I go over to my Files app, and
Mute, Michelle, so you could put the TV on. You're welcome.
all right. I'm going to mute everyone again, so if you have a question, unmute
Sorry,
yourself.
I just muted myself.
Okay, thanks. That's all right. You don't have to apologize. Just so essentially, I click on this here. What I'm able to do, you're going to see I have the share icon. So I'm able to share this from the Files app. If I was in, let's see here, what's another, Photos. Go to my Photos app, and I click on this tulip. Guess what I'm able to do? And this is on the left side, so it's a little inconsistent here, but I'm able to share it again. So the share icon is, basically available in any app. So what can you do with it? Well, let's just pick on this tulip here. What I'm able to do, the share icon, when you click on it, basically what it does is it splits things up into different areas. In the Photos app, what it allows me to do is select what I want to share. So I can share, these are the photos in my Photos app. So you're going to see I have a little check mark here. I can select. So now I have 3 photos selected here. And from here, we have the apps that you can share with. So if I wanted to open these up in the Books app, I don't know why I'd want to do that, but maybe if it's a PDF, I could open it up in the, so that's why it is there. Some of these things aren't necessarily going to make sense, but that's just because they don't make sense for everyone. But there might be cases where it may be possible that somebody wants to do that, especially with PDF. If I had a PDF, I might want to open it up in the Books app. Maybe I want to share this with my friends. I want to email it. I want to, Spark is another email program. I want to put it in my notes. I want to put it in Zoom. Google Drive, I'm sharing it with Google Drive. Open it up in a browser with images, we can open them up in browser. So I want to share it with DuckDuckGo. So these are all the different apps. And what we're able to do when we click on more here is have our favorite apps. So these are always going to show. This is why the Books app shows, because it's always there. Well, I don't really want to have it, the Books app, I'm not going to share with that all the time, so I can remove that. And it doesn't necessarily remove it from sharing, it just removes it from being at one of the first choices. So if you use, let's say you use Google Drive, you can put that up here, and I can actually put this right up at the top there. These are all the apps here that are available, and this is where it can change depending on what apps you have installed. But essentially, now when I share this, what you're going to see is Google Drive comes up first. So if I use a specific app a lot, Google Drive, or maybe it is Dropbox, or whatever, or I message people out, maybe I want to have messages first. You can reorder these different apps. And now Books isn't there, although it is available. I can click on More, and I can select Books, but it's not going to be right there front and center because it's not something that I would use on a regular basis. Below that, so those are the apps. Below that, we have what we call actions. So these are actions. I need to copy, so think of these more like verbs. I need to copy a photo. I need to save it to my Files app. I wish they would put the Files app up here, like iCloud Drive. That's basically what you're doing. Instead of saving it to the Files app, you're saving it to Google Drive. So it'd be nice to have files up here. I wonder if it is. Let's take a look. Yeah, no files. So there's one problem, Kevin, why it gets confusing, because like, why is one up here? You can put one up here, but you can't do it down here. But outside of that, more actions. I can add it to an album. Being that these are photos, I can add it to a shared album, add it to an album. I can copy an iCloud link and then send that link to someone, and then they're able to view that photo. Below that, we have more actions. I can print it. So again, I'm sharing it with my printer. Open it in GoodNotes, which is an app that I use. Print it with HP Smart, another printer. I can save it to Dropbox. So here's where it gets confusing. Dropbox, Files, and Google Drive. They're all the same for the most part, right? They're cloud storage. But here we have Save to Dropbox. Up here I have Drive. And over here I have Save to Files. I think all three of these should be across the top, right across here, to make it consistent, because they all do the same thing. So that's where the confusion lies in, and there's not much you can do about that. You can edit the actions. So from here, copy photos and save to files are my favorites. I do like save to files, so I put that. That's always going to be available. It's kind of like where I put that Google Drive up there. So these, if I add to shared album, I can add that as a favorite, and then here are my other actions. If I use a printer a lot, I could put print up towards the top. So I just click on that, and now print is there. And let's take copy photos out. So now those are my two favorites. Now when I go over to Safari, let's take another look at this. Go to the share icon, and you're going to see I have my same file, so I can share this with Google Drive. And what am I sharing? Well, in this case, I'm sharing a website, but when I click on options, I can set if I want it to be a PDF or a web archive. In this case, I'd want it to be a PDF. What this is going to do is create a PDF of the entire page, not a screenshot. It's going to include everything in here, makes one big long PDF. And then from there, if I were to, I click on it again, PDF, and then if I were to put this in Drive, I'd have a big long PDF. I could email this to Kevin or message it to Kevin, tap on messages, and he'd get that big long PDF of that web page. You're going to see I have my save to files and print, so it's consistent across my different apps. And then down here, we have a few different options. I can mark this up, being that it's a web page. So what I can do with this is with my pencil. So if I go, iPhone 13, cross that out. We're going to go with a 14 here. Coming soon. And then you're going to see I have the share icon up here. Guess what I can do? Share my marked up document. So that the share icon is universal for the most part, and but it also, I will show you, being that it's saved as a PDF before I go any further. You're going to see that if I look this way here, it's the whole thing is, you're going to see it's the entire PDF, not just a screenshot of what was on the screen. So kind of cool. So I hope that helps, Kevin, but that's basically what the share icon is. And the way that I think about it is, what you are doing is you're sharing whatever you have with, it can be a person, it can be an app, or what it could be is an action, a verb. I'm going to print this or share with my printer. Unfortunately, it can get a little confusing, as you saw with Dropbox, Files, and iCloud Drive. Even though they're all the same, all three of them were in different spots. So that's where it can get a little confusing.
Dan, I'll go ahead and get a one-on-one session maybe. I'm sorry, I just got in, so
Okay.
I've missed. I'll watch the video.
Well, you'll be able to, yeah, you'll watch I'll have a replay of it. So, you'll be able to watch that. So,
Okay.
yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right. So next, why I receive phone calls. Oops, I didn't type this one in right. But basically, Linda is receiving phone calls on her phone, but she doesn't hear the phone ringing. What could be going on with it? There's a couple of things that could be going on it. So let's take a look at that. So we're looking at my iPhone here, and the first thing is with Do Not Disturb. Probably not this, but it could be. With Do Not Disturb, which is now under Focus, what you can do is set it to not allow anyone to get through. So if you have Do Not Disturb on, it will not allow anybody to get through. Unless, I'm going to click on this, unless they are a favorite. So this could be why some calls get through and other ones don't. If the person is a favorite, then they're going to get through. If they're not a favorite, then they're not going to get through. So what is a favorite? We'll come back to repeated calls here shortly. What is a favorite? Or you can actually tap on this and select from any one of your lists. Now I'm using iOS 16, so we can easily create lists or groups. But basically, if I go to my phone, you can see I do not have any favorites. What I'm able to do is tap on the plus here, and I can, let's put Beth in here as a favorite. And I'm going to go with call, her phone number, and that's all right. Yeah, call. Okay, it should add it. Cancel. Nope, try it again. I have it set up on my personal phone, Beth. Call. Do I not? Maybe I don't have her phone number in there. Let's go with mail. I didn't have her phone number in there. So let's just go with that one there. So now Beth's email is set up as a favorite. And we can do the same thing in the Contacts app. If you go to the Contacts app and the phone app are, for the most part, they're not, it's not in there. They're cross, you change one on one and it'll change it on the other. But now with this favorites here, if I had her phone number, I don't have her phone number in this, that's why it's not allowing me to put it or add it as a favorite. But essentially what's going to happen now with that is if she were to call me, or if the iPhone received a phone call from that phone number, let's say this was a phone number, it would come through. But if, let's say, favorites, you have to go to the phone app. So you're going to see I have the phone app here. And down at the bottom, what we have here is we have recents, contacts, keypad, and then there's favorites. So make sure you're looking at favorites.
Okay.
And then you just kind of go up and tap on the plus. So yeah, if Steve were to call me, Steve Omug, if he were to call me, it wouldn't come through. But if Beth were to call me, it would. So that's one reason why that may be happening. And of course, Do Not Disturb does have to be on for that. The other reason, back to Do Not Disturb, is repeated calls. If repeated calls is on, what will happen is if someone calls you within 3 minutes twice. So let's say that, Steve is not a favorite. Sorry, Steve, picking on you. Steve is not a favorite. But when he calls me the first time, it won't go through. But if he calls me again within 3 minutes, it'll come through. So that can be,
Dan,
yeah?
I'm the one who asked this question.
Oh, okay,
and
yeah.
On notification or settings and notifications, and I don't have anything that looks like what you have. I don't find I have schedule summary, show previews for screen sharing. Schedule summary is off.
You have to go to focus. You're in notifications. What you have to do is go to focus.
So settings and focus.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry.
And this is only if I'm going to get into one other area where it could be, but this is if you have do not disturb on. And this could be, sometimes we turn,
I don't have it on.
yeah.
I'm
But
curious.
sometimes it might be on, and that might be why you might be getting calls sometimes and sometimes not. But so that's two things with the do not disturb. But there is another, if we go to the phone app here, or phone settings, so I'm back in the settings and I go to phone,
Yeah.
we can set who we want to, where to go here?
Okay,
Silence unknown calls. So when this is turned on, if someone calls me and they are not in my contacts, it's going to go straight to my voicemail.
Settings in phone, and I see Siri and search, notifications, incoming calls, announced calls, my number, Wi-Fi calling. Oh, silence unknown callers is off.
Okay, well, that's good. You're going to receive every phone call. I actually recommend turning this on if you get a lot of spam calls, because they'll go straight into your voicemail. But again,
Okay,
I'll
I'll
pick,
turn that off. Sorry.
and
Silence
I'll pick
unknown
on,
callers, I just turned it on.
yeah, and then you'll get every phone call. So with that off. And let's see here, what else is there? I have, I'm using Verizon. Of course, this phone isn't connected, but there's silence junk callers. So, if you want to make sure that you get every phone call, and this might be a way to start, turn all these off. You're going to get every phone call, and then slowly turn them back on and see.
I don't have something called silence junk.
Okay,
callers.
that might be a Verizon thing. I don't know.
I'm Verizon.
Oh, okay. I don't know
But
then.
I have a phone that I bought last November, so maybe you have something.
This is a 12. Maybe I am using iOS 16 on it, so maybe that. But
Okay, did I understand I should have silence unknown callers on or off?
off. If you want to receive every phone call, turn it off.
Okay, but if I don't want to get spam calls, I should turn it on.
Turn it on. But with that, what you're going to do is, if someone is not in your contacts, then you're also not going, because they're unknown. You're also not going to be able to receive that phone call. So I'll pick on Steve again. If he's not in my contacts and he calls me, if this is turned on, when Steve calls me, I'm not going to receive that phone call. It's going to go straight into voicemail.
Okay.
Because he's unknown. So I would have to put Steve in my contacts. So, and then it'll be fine after that.
Okay, but some of the other questions you've answered thus far today, I'm getting in, because I'm listening to or watching you on my iPad. So I've been trying to find the same things on my phone, and I don't have the same things, so I can't follow.
It's unfortunately, I'm using iOS 16, although it's pretty close. With the phone, things get a little different because it depends on you're using Verizon. This particular phone isn't connected up to anything, so Verizon will offer different features than AT&T, than what this phone doesn't have anything on it. So, with the iPhone, there's going to be a few more variables than there are with the iPad. Kind of like the iPad Air is going to be different from the iPad Pro, which is going to be different from the iPad 7 or 8 or whatever. Minor differences. The phone, it can get a little bit more tricky. But typically what you'll want to do is go to phone, kind of make sure everything is all good there. Notifications are set to immediate, probably are,
Well, wait, notifications, banner style sound, is that what allow notifications is on?
Immediate delivery.
I have something called immediate delivery on my phone. I have banner style, yep, I've got starting from your alerts and down, but I don't have schedule, summary, and immediate delivery.
Are you?
What version of iOS?
What version of iOS are you using?
Okay, so I go to figure that out. I go to settings and where?
At the very top, you're gonna general, and then go to about.
Okay, general, and then about. Okay, about.
And you're gonna see mine says iOS version 16 here.
Mine doesn't say iOS version. It says software version.
Okay, that's fine.
It
Yep,
says
software version.
model name, iPhone 13.
What's it say under software?
Okay, the software version is 15.6.1.
Oh, that's the latest. Yep, you're good there.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That is. Yep.
Yep.
And model name is iPhone 13, and then it gives me
Mhm.
model number, serial number.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Yeah, you're all good. Another thing, what you can do, you go to cellular. This is another spot where there's phone settings, cellular, and obviously you want to have cellular data. Roaming you want to turn off or keep off because that can lead to unknown charges.
okay, I'm on cellular data. That's on. Roaming is on. Yeah. Yeah. Wi-Fi is off.
Yeah. And it looks like everything's all good there. Then I don't know. Sorry.
Dad?
Anyone have? Yeah.
Yeah, I have a friend who has that problem every single week. And it turns out two things. One is for some reason in the sounds and haptics,
Yeah.
she's got change with buttons. Okay? And
Okay.
in,
Okay. I've got
change
that
with
on.
buttons is on. Then
Yeah.
when she adjusts the volume or changes something, it causes her volume to go down.
Aha. Good.
Okay, my
Up
change.
there, no, up higher, above general, sounds
There it
and
is. Yep,
haptics
yep.
under notifications.
Yep.
Okay, I'm on sounds and haptics. My change with
Change
buttons,
buttons
is off.
should be off,
Should be off.
right?
Oh.
That's a good.
Sounds
Thank
is
you
off.
very much. I'm going to take a
Let's go
screenshot
off
of that.
effective.
Yeah, because basically what that will do.
Yeah.
Whoops, I turned it off. I didn't want to do that. There we go. Basically, what that will do is when you have that on, it will also affect the ringer on when a phone call, so you're not going to hear it ring. If you turn that off, the ringer will always ring even though the volume is turned all the way down. So yes, thank you. That's a great tip.
My volume is up. My volume.
Yeah, but it could be when it's in your pocket, you could be accidentally turning it down sometimes. Or if it's in your purse or whatever, it can, or the mute button might be switched off and then all of a sudden, so.
One last thing that I found,
Mhm.
I bought this lovely expensive case from Apple for my SE, that it interfered on the side with that button that turns off the sound, if you're in a public
Yeah,
place.
no,
Yeah.
I know about that.
When I held it up to my ear, I didn't know that it was, and I found 3 other people that was happening to them, that when you hold it up, it hits it a certain way, and sometimes it can turn it off, which it doesn't sound like what's happening to her, but just somebody is doing that.
Okay.
Well, thank you for this 2 suggestions.
Yep.
I appreciate it, Dan. Thank you.
Yep, and thank you. I didn't catch who said it, but that's a great tip. Yeah, thank you. All right, let's see what else we have. Jeff, Find My is very unreliable. Any suggestions? So I read up on this, and basically what it comes down to, there's no settings that necessarily work with Find My, but when I read up on it, what people were saying is there's a couple of variables with that. The Find My works with GPS, so if you're in a building, it could be a little iffy. Then what it does is it uses Wi-Fi. Well, if it's in a building where there's no Wi-Fi, then it can get iffy as well. So the perfect time for it to work would be if you're outside. The other problem is it depends on how many satellites are connected up. And I was really surprised. So I have a drone. And before you fly, you have to wait for it to connect up to, I think it's up to, might be 3 satellites, might be more than that. But I'm amazed at how many satellites these devices connect up to, including the phone. The phone, when it's outside, it can connect up to 10 different satellites, and you're going to get precision Find My information, exactly where it's at. But let's just say there's a few trees, or there's a building, or it could be your geographic location. And it can't connect up to all those satellites, well, then it's going to be a little less iffy. Add to that, no Wi-Fi, So they're saying that all those things can affect it. And
No, Dan,
yeah,
let me explain.
okay,
My
go for it.
wife is carrying an iPhone 12. My granddaughter's got an iPhone something. When the pair of them are together, physically in the same car, the same house, I can always see my granddaughter, no problem. My wife, maybe a big blue circle, maybe nothing, maybe she shows,
Huh?
but her phone is just unreliable.
Which phone does she have?
She's got a 12, or maybe it's a 10.
I wonder if it's
10
that.
or
I have a 12. My wife has a 12, and it's pretty good. I have a couple of friends, husband, wife, that travel in motorhome, and it's kind of iffy, but both of them are relatively the same. I don't know. I'm wondering if it's the phone itself, being it's an older phone.
Well, it's not that old. The other strange thing is when she's in a car and moving,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes I get shots every 2 or 3 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Other times I actually see her physically moving along the
Right.
road.
Yeah, I know exactly what
And
you're
I
talking
don't
about.
know what.
I don't know either.
Besides.
I will have that with everyone, and yeah, sometimes it's like I'm driving along the road with them. I mean, you just see that line,
Yeah.
and then other times it sits there, and then all of a sudden 3 minutes, it moves and the map moves and they're over here, and I don't have no rhyme or reason why I would do that.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry, not much help on that at all. And there aren't any settings. I
Thank you.
did look to see if there were settings or anything, and
No,
like
there
I said,
isn't.
what I found was people are. But you're right. I know exactly what you're talking about because I see that with my wife and my sister too. She was just going to down down to Saugatuck or whatever, and I saw her driving, and then all of a sudden it stopped, and and then all of a sudden 3 minutes later. So I don't know. So.
I don't think Wi-Fi is involved.
Wi-Fi
Right.
would be more for if you're in an area that has Wi-Fi. I wasn't thinking about like driving and really Wi-Fi can give a location because every signal is mapped, but it's not going to be the high res thing. So if it can't, the GPS is where it gets the really good detail.
If she's in the car and moving, and I'm
Then-
getting information, that must be coming over the cell phone
Yes.
data network.
Yep.
Even though cell phone data is turned off on her phone. So that's a
Yeah.
strange thing.
It could be, I don't know. It's hard to say.
Okay.
It's got to be transmitting that data somehow, right?
Yeah, it's got to be cell phone data.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay, enough said. Thank you very much.
Yep. Sorry, wasn't much help with that one. All right. Do you have any? Comes from Cindy. Do you have any experience with screen protectors? And I do to a certain degree, but things have changed a lot. So I had to Google this a little bit. Let me pull up my webpage. There's your iPad. Okay. So basically what I found, what I read about, well, here, let me give you my opinion. For an iPad, I don't think it's necessarily advantageous unless you drop it. If you don't have a case on it, it can protect it from being scratched. But the glass on iPads and iPhones, pretty tough. So it takes a lot to scratch it. And I'm not saying that it can't scratch, it can't be scratched. It absolutely can be scratched. But if you keep it in a case, you're going to be pretty safe.
Hey, Dan,
Yeah.
this is Cindy.
Oh, hi, Cindy.
My real question was about the one it's supposed to be like paper-like.
So I read about that. Okay. Yeah. Well, I'll just skip by all of that. Yeah. So there's four different types of screen protectors I discovered. We have the tempered glass. This type of screen protector is used to replicate the look and feel of your iPad screen. It might bubble up from time to time. You won't necessarily see it, and you still have that high reflection. So if you're outside, it's really not that good. The next one is the polythene terephthalate, PET. They say that this is a cheaper version. They're plastic, smooth to the touch. They provide decent protection, but they won't save it if you drop it. So they're not like shatterproof like a glass protector. We'll get to the thermoplastic polyurethane is another plastic option, and that offers elasticity. This means that the protector will naturally heal itself when it gets scratched. And that's probably one of the biggest things I have with screen protectors is we're protecting our screen from being scratched, but the protector itself gets all kinds of scratches, and all of a sudden I'm looking at a scratchy iPad, and that kind of like defeats the purpose to me. If I wanted to keep it, that defeats the purpose. But your paper-like, that's the fourth one. This was new to me. Paper-like is exactly what it sounds like. These protectors give your iPad screen the feel of paper. And you said that you want to start drawing on it with a
Right,
pencil?
so it's so smooth that doing any artwork.
Then that's what they're saying. It provides excellent protection, and they are great for those who use an Apple Pencil. So I would say you have nothing to lose outside of a little bit of money. I don't know how much they are, but for if you want to draw, I'd say give it a shot, especially if it gives you that feel. To me, screen protectors are how much do they really protect it? But what they can do, if you're reading outside, might want to get one that is less glossy. If you're drawing, get one of these paper ones and absolutely try it out. So then it's almost like you're writing on paper. I personally would like to try it. I've never heard of this until you asked this question. And now I'm like, I wonder what that would be like.
My real concern about trying it is I don't want to ruin the finish on my new iPad
You
Air.
won't ruin the finish.
If I remove it.
You won't ruin the finish.
No,
You'll be fine.
Okay. Because I always put a screen protector on my phones, and many people have, and it really prevents the main screen from cracking when they do careless things. But I didn't want, if I decided I didn't like it, there's this nice finish on this new iPad Air that just cleans up nicely with a dry tissue or cloth, and I don't want to mess it up.
Yeah, no, I think you'll be fine with that. So
okay, I'll let you know after I buy one.
Yeah, I'll be curious on that. Like I said, I've never heard of it, and I've been using my pencil more. I actually bought a case more like this is a school iPad, but I bought a case more like this for my iPad Pro that I can put my pencil in here because now I can flip the keyboard around. This one is a keyboard, so basically I can just go like that, and I can write or draw or whatever, and then I want to use it as a keyboard. I just kind of go like that. So it's a little different than the smart keyboard, a little more clunky, but I love this because with a smart keyboard, I'm afraid I'm always going to lose that pencil.
Who makes that keyboard? Where'd you get it?
This is a Logitech.
Okay.
And this one doesn't have a trackpad, but they have them with a trackpad. Like I said, this is for the school, so it didn't have a trackpad, but yeah. They do have it with a trackpad. So,
Dan, on that paper, because I've looked at that too, and maybe I may have gotten it mixed up with something else, but isn't it sort of like an adhesive where you kind of put it over your glass screen? And if that's the case, what happens when you don't want it, and how much resolution do you lose?
As far as well, I'm not familiar with the paper-like, but I know with screen protectors, as Cindy said, a lot of people put them on their phone. I have friends that put them on their phone. You don't lose any, as far as I know, you don't lose any resolution, anything like that, unless it gets scratched. That's my problem with screen protectors is they are designed to protect the screen, but they get scratched themselves far easier than what the glass does. And then all of a sudden you're looking at an iPad that has a bunch of scratches on it because it's a screen protector. So yes, you're preventing it from being scratched, but you're still kind of looking at a scratched iPad. As far as the adhesive, these are new adhesives. We used to put them on at when I was at the Apple store, and they've gotten far better. But 10 years ago, we would put them on for people. People would purchase them at the Apple store and put them on. And I would say if Apple was worried about the adhesive, they wouldn't sell them at the Apple store. You know, I'd probably say be careful with some of them that you get from Amazon. Maybe but for the most part, if it's offered in an Apple store, it went through some. Apple's just not going to put anything in their Apple store that could ruin the adhesive. So I've not heard any issues with adhesive ruining the glass. I know that some of the glass on these iPads have what do they call it, amophoric or whatever. I'm probably not saying it right. And some people are like, well, if you use the pencil, use it a lot, it's going to remove that screen protectant and all that. And it's just like, well, if you're using the iPad that much to where that pencil is wearing it down, then wow, that's impressive, because it just doesn't happen. I don't think.
That's the key thing, Dan, that Apple is not at the store anywhere selling the paper-like one. And
Yeah,
that was
I'm
my
wondering if
hint
it's.
that maybe.
I wonder
Yeah,
if
that
it's
was
so
my-
new.
No, it's been around. It's been around for over a year or more, because I think I chatted with you about that offline about it. But I think that if Apple's not offering that kind of a screen protector for the iPad, that's why I've been hesitant. I was
Right.
hoping with somebody else would experiment
Yeah,
with it.
no, then I don't know. Apple iPad paper screen protector.
Dan,
Yep.
I've been using one for probably a year, and I just love it.
Do you? Okay.
It's-
There we go.
It wears the pencil down a little bit faster, but you can change the nibs.
Yeah, change that tip.
Yep.
I'm looking at, let's see here. I'm going to go to my,
Does he know where he got it and who makes it or whatever?
do you know what
I
brand?
live in Canada, but I got it at Staples, I think.
So we got this. I mean, I just did a quick Google search, paper-like. But as seen on Kickstarter, Mac Life, Cultimac. So, but this is a brand name, so I'm sure they're. To me, it's intriguing.
It's on Amazon.
Okay. I think it's kind of a neat concept. I would love to have a paper-like thing. And I mean, I can't write or anything like that, but I love the idea of using my iPad to write stuff. I've been getting more and more into GoodNotes, and just the idea of having that paper-like feel sounds very intriguing to me. So, yeah, I think you're going to be fine.
Just out of curiosity, does it really give a paper-like feel? Much more so, enough so that.
To me, it's a good feeling. It's not slippery or anything.
Okay.
So when I didn't have it on, I used to make a few more mistakes than I do now. So I just like the feel of it.
Right. So you'll give it a thumbs up?
Drag.
Oh, sure do. And
Right.
I don't think I lose any resolution either.
Okay. Well, there we go. Thank you. All right. I think, let's see here, we are at 7:15, and yeah, that is it for my questions. Let me take a look at the chat here a minute. And somebody had a question. Sorry, I can't remember. We talked about it at the beginning. And what was that? I remember that.
It was about why I have trouble moving contacts into groups. I have a group, and when I drag a new contact into it, sometimes it won't take it. It's crazy.
I had that because I'm starting to work on a little bit of a tutorial, and I had the same thing. So here I am, and let's say I wanted to move Beth to, she must be already in there.
The group name is being highlighted by the card. You have to make sure you see that first before you let go.
I know, but it doesn't highlight over everything.
Yeah, that's because it's already, she might be, so it's not highlighting on that one there, you can see, but it's highlighting that one. So let's see. She's already in that one.
Okay.
So if I take her out, remove from the group, And now I go back, and Beth here, I can put her in both.
Okay.
The other thing you can do is, let's see here. Oh, no, it doesn't do it. New group. Okay. Add to group. Okay, never mind. Go ahead, Steve.
Oh, no, just was saying bingo. That's the reason.
Mm-hmm.
One more question.
Yep.
In photos, how do I get to my most recent photos? I mean, I'm trying to send a photo and I want to send a photo and I have to go through 6 years of photos or, drag the slider down until, I can't get to the last photo.
Are you using the
that one.
Photos app when you do this?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I go to send a message, let's say, and then I
Okay,
go
that's
to
what I was
photos.
wondering. Okay, so you're going.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Steve, while I some messages here.
Sure. So you're saying you're doing this when you're in mail and you're composing a mail message, and now you want to add a photo as an attachment.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm sending a new message.
Right here.
And then I go to photos down below, and when I go to photos, I get 1,000 photos. I can't get my last photo. I have to,
And you got to choose you have to choose albums, and from that column, you'll see an album that's titled Recents.
Okay, I see. Okay, yeah. Okay, that's good. I see it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Steve.
You bet.
Somebody asked I'm looking at the chat. Somebody asked about AirDrop. What is AirDrop? AirDrop allows you to share files with other Apple devices. Now, they have to be on the local network. I'm not going to be able to share a file with Steve because he's over in Oregon. I mean, it does have to be in close proximity. But let's say I wanted to share this photo here via AirDrop. What I do is I go to AirDrop here. And now what my Mac is going to do is it's going to look around the network here, and it found 3 different devices that I can share it with. If Beth were to open up her iPhone, her phone would show up here, and I could click on her name and it would send it over to Beth. So that's what AirDrop is. It is not all inclusive in the aspect of not everyone is going to show up. All inclusive isn't the right word. But if I go to my iPhone as an example, and we go to General, you're going to see here AirDrop. This will only show under people that have me in their contacts. So if Beth does not have this phone in her contacts, this phone would not show up. So basically, you don't have to worry about, if you put it on everyone, anyone's going to be able to see it. So when I'm at the school and I turn AirDrop on, let's say I turn it on for the Mac, it's kind of funny. You get to see the kids walking by and which ones have it on everyone and which ones don't. And you'll see names just appear and then they disappear as they're walking by because they have it set for everyone, and I'd be able to send them a file. Now they have to accept it. It's not like I can just go and drop a file. But basically what it will do is it's a way of transferring files wirelessly to other Apple devices.
Yeah, but Dan, don't they have to be within a certain distance?
Yeah, so we have a help desk, and the kids are walking 6 feet in front of me, kind of thing. So it's not everyone that is in the school. Yes, it's within, as they're walking by the help desk, all of a sudden they'll appear, and then as they walk by and they start leaving the help desk, they disappear. But they've used, the kids are pretty clever with this. We didn't think about this as a tech team. This was last year. We needed to distribute an app to their MacBook Airs. And we're like, oh no. So send them over to the help desk. We'll install it manually. And all of a sudden, one kid's like, we'll just do AirDrop. Basically, we put it on one machine. Everyone turned on their AirDrop, and they distributed that app to everyone in that class because they're all within a close proximity, and everyone had that app. Something they've never, like, duh. Kevin and I are like, why didn't we think of that? We're the tech guys.
The one downside of turning on everyone is that one time I was in some fast food chain restaurant on the inside, and all of a sudden I hear this song coming out of my iPhone, and forgot that I had left AirDrop on everyone. So somebody just decided to share a song
yeah,
that they had and played it over to me.
yeah,
Wasn't my taste, so I went back and put it the other way around.
yep. Again, looking at some of the chat questions, I created a shared album. This comes from Ron. Many are relatives. He was hoping that they'd be able to change the names. Unfortunately, they can't do that. When you create a shared album, they can't make any changes to it. Even with iOS 16, can't do it. Now, the good news is with iOS 16 and Ventura, what they are coming out with is a shared library. So people within your family, like what I will be able to do is create a shared library with Beth, and then you will be able to do that. So I take a photo, I can have it go on my personal library, or I can have it go in the shared library, and then she has access to it. It's like a true family shared library, which everyone's been wanting for a long time, and Apple finally is coming out with that, which is great. I've not tested it, so I can't tell you how well it works, but I've read up on it, and the concept sounds really nice.
I-16 and Ventura in beta?
Yes. So they're coming out with, they just announced, what is it, September 7, something like that. They are announcing well, they're not saying, but it's pretty well known. They're going to be announcing their phones. And I don't think they'll be dropping iOS 16, but they probably will announce the date that they're dropping it, which could be in a week or two from that date. But iOS 16 has been pretty stable, and there's a chance that it could actually be dropped on September 16 or September 7 or whatever date it is. They announced that they are holding off on iPad OS 16 about a month. I'm sure they got some, there's some bugs with that, so they're just kind of waiting on that. And then Ventura or Mac OS always comes out a little bit later, so I don't think we'll see. And there's a lot of people that are complaining about Ventura. I mean, it's pretty stable, but there's just glitches here and there. So what we're going to see is iOS 16 rumors, then iPad OS 16, and then probably about a month later, we're going to see Ventura. So everything's going to come out in pieces like that. I did say I talked to Steve earlier, and this could be interesting for everyone. What was that, Steve? Recode, Vox.
Okay. 1 second.
Recode, Vox, and let's see. I'll just go Johnny Ive.
Actually, Code, CODE.
Oh, okay. Johnny Ive. I want salary. And code. Okay, so Vox. Code. Here we go. Well, we'll just go to Apple Insider. So what's going to be happening here? So for those of you who don't know, Kara Swisher is a tech journalist. She used to be with Wall Street Journal, with Vox, and I think she's moved on to somewhere else. But anyway, she's the one that, along with Moss, what's his name, Steve? Walt Mossberg. He's the two of them 10 years ago, maybe 12 years ago, they're the ones that got Steve Jobs and Bill Gates on stage together. And this is just shortly before Steve Jobs passed away, I would say maybe a year before. But it's the first time, so she and Walt Mossberg interviewed the two of them. It was really a good interview. So anyway, what Kara Swisher is doing, Walt Mossberg retired, but what she is doing is she is getting these three people together on the stage at the same time. And basically what they're going to be talking about is Steve Jobs' legacy. So we have Tim Cook, obviously, in the middle. We have Johnny Ive, the designer, who's no longer with Apple. And then we have Powell. We never hear about her. This is Steve Jobs' wife. So the three of them are going to talk together, and they're going to be seated together at the stage at the same time. And the three of them are going to be talking with Kara about Steve Jobs. So that is going to be very, very, I think it's going to be very, very interesting. They stream it live, and of course, I believe you will be able to view it later. In the past, you've always been able to view it later, but this is something that you might want to put on your radar to watch. Maybe you can't watch it live, but it's just something that you do probably want to watch later on, because I think it could be very interesting for the Apple people, Steve Jobs. And, like I say, the big thing is it's going to have Lauren Jobs, which, we never hear
What's the
her.
date on that, Ken? What's the date?
Steve, we talked about that too. But, let's see here. I wish I could.
September 6th through the 8th.
6th, yeah, they're going to have, they are having a bunch of different people talking. They're going to have one of the CEOs of Google on there. It's a 3-day event, so they're having a bunch of different speakers. Some of them I've never heard of, but other ones look pretty interesting. So you might want to check it out. And is it Code, you said, Steve? Code
I think so. I'm about to paste the link in.
Swisher. Here we go. Code 22. Vox Media Events.
That's it.
So Vox Media Events. And here are the people that they're going to have speaking. I don't know too many of these people, but they're going to have Mayor Pete. I like him. They're going to have Tim Cook, Mark Cuban, who we all know from basketball and all that, billionaire, and his TV show Shark Tanks. But he is doing something really interesting with cost plus drugs, trying to cut the middleman out and get drug prices cheaper. So this could be an interesting topic. Not necessarily tech, but still an interesting. I love just to hear and talk about it, kind of thing. We're going to have, let's see who else is in. Oh, Robert Iger. I'm a huge Disney fan, some of you know. So and I think Iger was great as a CEO of Disney, so that could be interesting. And Iger is the one, he would go on talks with Steve Jobs, and he put into his biography that he believes that if Steve Jobs wouldn't have passed away, Steve Jobs or Apple would have bought Disney, because Steve Jobs just had a thing about Disney, and the two of them had a very good friendship. So he said if things would have kept going, we might see it. Probably would have seen a merger between the two of them. Kind of interesting. Maybe he'll talk about that. Amazon, got the president and CEO of Amazon, not Bezos, but because he retired. So anyway, a lot of different people in here, and again, they usually stream them afterwards, so you can watch them afterwards. But I think a couple of these topics, a couple of these people here are going to be very interesting, especially Laura Powell. She's a big philanthropist, education, so that could be very interesting. Although she's not going to talk about that, they're going to talk about Steve Jobs. So, all right. Let's call that a wrap. We're at 7:30, so thank you for your support. Next week, I will be talking about numbers. We're just going to take a look at numbers and how it works as a spreadsheet, some of the basics, autofill and all that. And then I'll also talk, a little bit more on how we can use pivot tables and, what I like about numbers. It is my go-to spreadsheet. I don't do a lot with spreadsheets. I'm more of a database guy, but it is my go-to spreadsheet, and I think it's you can create spreadsheets that look a lot nicer. And if we can make anything look better, it's spreadsheets we can make look better. Because oh my God, put an Excel spreadsheet in front of you, and you're just like, with numbers we can make them look a little nicer. So I'll show you little things with numbers. So that's going to be next week. And thank you, everyone. Thanks for everyone's input and helping out with some of the things that I couldn't answer. I love that. And let's call that a wrap. I see there's a few more questions on here, but what I might do is have to add them to another one. So just email me at Dan@Dan's Tutorials. So, all right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. You're the man.
All right.